One phone call. That's all it took to turn my entire world upside down again, as though 4 months of healing had vanished in an instant. Seeing Dan's name light up my screen sent a jolt through my chest, memories rushing back like waves crashing onto a familiar shore I desperately tried to forget. My hand hovered hesitantly over the phone, heartbeat quickening, emotions stirring wildly within me, uncertain whether answering would lead to comfort or chaos. When I finally picked up, Dan's voice, tense yet warm, echoed softly in my ear, causing an involuntary shiver that reminded me painfully of the love we'd shared. "Hey, Max," he began cautiously, as if unsure whether he had the right to call after everything we'd been through. "I just want to see you to talk. No drama this time, I promise." Despite my initial hesitation, something deep inside compelled me to agree, driven by curiosity or perhaps a lingering hope I tried hard to bury. As I hung up, I felt unsettled, confused, yet strangely eager to step once more into the whirlwind that was Dan. For the remainder of the afternoon, I struggled to focus, consumed by anticipation as the minutes passed slowly, tension building steadily with each second. Arriving later that evening at Dan's familiar apartment, I stood outside the door for several moments, heart pounding in my chest, each beat a quiet echo of past happiness and heartache. Everything appeared exactly the same. Same faded welcome mat, same wooden door slightly chipped at the edges. But somehow, it felt entirely new and unknown. I hesitated once more before knocking, taking a slow breath to steady my nerves, realizing that crossing this threshold again would mean facing feelings I'd spent months trying to overcome. The door opened quietly, revealing Dan standing there. Tall, slightly nervous, eyes soft yet guarded, his gentle expression bringing back a flood of powerful emotions. His dark hair was casually tousled, just the way I'd always adored, reminding me of countless mornings spent wrapped together, lost in quiet affection. Without a word, he stepped back, inviting me inside with a cautious smile. We exchanged awkward pleasantries at first, discussing work, mutual friends, and recent events, carefully navigating around the emotional landmines of our painful past. Each word we shared carried a hidden weight of unspoken truths, subtly hinting at regret and sadness beneath the casual tone. As minutes ticked by, tension grew between us, heavy yet strangely comforting, a reminder of how deeply our lives had once been intertwined. As we talked, I found myself involuntarily drifting closer, drawn to Dan's familiar warmth like a moth to a flame, yearning for the comfort I knew existed in his touch. Without thinking, I reached out, my fingertips lightly brushing his hand in a gesture so casual yet profoundly intimate. The simple touch sent an electric charge through both of us, our eyes instantly locking, revealing all the emotion we'd been desperately holding back. In that powerful silence, something shifted, uncertainty vanished, replaced by clarity. Our hearts recognized each other immediately, bridging 4 months of distance as if no time had passed at all. The silence between us felt fragile, charged with expectation and uncertainty, yet there was an undeniable warmth that wrapped gently around my heart. Our fingertips still touched, lingering there hesitantly, like neither of us dared to break this delicate connection. In Dan's eyes, I saw reflections of myself, vulnerability mixed with cautious hope, and beneath that, an aching sense of longing I'd foolishly convinced myself was gone. Slowly, deliberately, Dan's fingers curled around mine, the warmth of his touch spreading through my hand, up my arm, and into my chest. This simple gesture reignited memories of nights spent tangled together on this very sofa, whispering dreams and promises we once believed would last forever. My breath quickened slightly, a flush of warmth rising to my cheeks as our bodies instinctively moved closer, driven by an invisible force pulling us together again. "Max," Dan began softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've missed this. I've missed us." His words were hesitant, careful, as if fearing that the truth might shatter the fragile moment we were sharing. I nodded slowly, struggling to find my voice amidst the flood of emotions rising within me. "Me too," I finally admitted quietly, letting my guard down just enough for him to see how deeply I'd felt his absence. "I didn't think you'd call." He offered a faint, sad smile, brushing his thumb gently along my knuckles, sending shivers racing down my spine. Honestly, neither did I, but I couldn't stay away. Not anymore. Those words hung softly in the air between us, dissolving any remaining hesitation. Our bodies shifted instinctively, closing the final space separating us, until our knees lightly touched, igniting a fresh spark of electricity. My heart hammered loudly in my chest. Hey, thanks for watching until this point. Please leave a comment if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And hey, thank you very much. Let's get back to story. Each beat echoing with the realization that no matter how hard we tried to move on, our hearts still knew exactly where they belonged. Dan raised his other hand, fingertips softly tracing the outline of my jaw. His eyes filled with an emotion I'd long missed, tenderness mixed with desire, regret intertwined with hope. His touch was cautious, respectful, yet filled with the deep intimacy we'd shared so many times before. Unable to resist, I leaned slightly into his palm, savoring the familiar comfort of his skin against mine. Our lips met slowly, tentatively, as if testing the fragile ground beneath us. The kiss was soft, filled with quiet hesitation, yet within seconds it deepened, becoming more confident, fueled by months of unspoken longing. Dan's fingers slipped through my hair, pulling me closer as I wrapped my arms around him, our bodies fitting together as naturally as if they'd been crafted solely for this moment. As our lips explored familiar territory, warmth flooded through me, igniting every nerve with a sensation far deeper than mere passion. It was a powerful mixture of relief, forgiveness, and love that had somehow survived the pain of our separation. Each gentle stroke of Dan's hand down my back, every tender sigh escaping his lips, spoke louder than any words ever could. Eventually, breathless and overwhelmed, we pulled back slightly, foreheads pressed gently together, breathing deeply in unison. "I don't know if this is right," Dan whispered softly, eyes closed, still clutching me tightly. "But it feels so real, Max." I ran my thumb gently across his cheek, smiling softly despite the ache in my heart. "Maybe it's not supposed to make sense," I whispered back, realizing the truth as I spoke it. "Maybe it's enough that we're here together right now." He nodded quietly, eyes slowly opening again, gazing deeply into mine with an intensity that left me feeling vulnerable yet cherished. In that quiet, tender moment, it became clear we'd never truly let go. Evening deepened outside the apartment windows, casting soft shadows across Dan's living room, adding intimacy to the quiet space we'd found ourselves in again. After our kiss, neither of us spoke for a while, the silence between us comfortable but tinged with the echoes of our complicated history. It was strange how quickly we had fallen back into familiar patterns. Fingers interlaced, shoulders lightly touching, breathing synchronized, as if the pain of our breakup had only been a brief interruption in our shared story. Dan shifted closer to me on the sofa, his shoulder gently pressing against mine, the comforting warmth of his body radiating through my skin. I glanced around the apartment, noticing small details I'd once loved. A framed picture of us from a vacation we'd taken, the slightly worn throw blanket draped over the back of the couch, even the faint scent of vanilla from the candles Dan always adored. Everything felt familiar yet subtly changed, as if these 4 months apart had given us new perspectives, allowing us to see each other and ourselves differently. "Max," Dan began quietly, his voice gentle and hesitant, breaking through the contemplative silence. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately, about why things ended the way they did." My chest tightened slightly at his words, memories of harsh arguments and hurtful words resurfacing briefly. "Me too," I admitted softly, squeezing his hand to reassure him, and perhaps myself, that this conversation, though difficult, was necessary. Dan took a slow breath, clearly gathering his thoughts before continuing. "We lost ourselves trying to change each other. Instead of embracing our differences, we fought against them. Maybe that's why it hurt so much." His eyes were soft yet vulnerable, and as he spoke, I could see a quiet sadness there, reflecting the ache I had also carried. I nodded slowly, understanding exactly what he meant. You're right. It took losing you to realize how much I'd tried to mold you into something you weren't. And in doing that, I forgot why I loved you in the first place. A gentle smile appeared on Dan's lips, relief evident in his expression as his thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand. It's ironic, isn't it? We always had love. We just forgot how to nurture it. The honesty of his words made my heart swell with both regret and tenderness. Maybe we needed that time apart to truly appreciate each other, I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper, vulnerability evident in every word. And maybe this meeting tonight isn't just nostalgia or loneliness. Maybe it's something deeper, something we shouldn't ignore. Dan leaned forward slightly, resting his forehead gently against mine, eyes closed, breathing quietly as if absorbing the truth of my words. His presence soothed something deep within me, offering a sense of peace I'd longed for but never truly expected to find again. Slowly, carefully, I lifted my hand to cup Dan's face, fingertips brushing lightly over his cheek, relishing the familiar warmth of his skin beneath mine. His eyes opened, dark and filled with quiet desire, mirroring my own longing. Without another word, our lips met again. This time deeper, more confident, fueled by newfound understanding and acceptance of one another. His hands moved tenderly, exploring my shoulders, back, and chest with a gentle reverence that made my pulse quicken. Each caress felt both comforting and thrilling, erasing months of loneliness with every delicate touch. My fingers found familiar paths along his spine, tracing curves I'd memorized during countless nights spent wrapped in each other's arms. The room grew warmer, charged with emotional intimacy that felt even more intense than any physical sensation. Every kiss and every touch was deliberate, filled with meaning, acknowledging both our painful past and hopeful future. As our breathing deepened, our bodies moving instinctively closer, Dan pulled back slightly, eyes searching mine with sincerity and cautious hope. "Stay with me tonight, Max," he whispered softly, vulnerability raw in his gaze. "I just want to feel you close again." My heart surged with affection and longing as I nodded gently, understanding that tonight wasn't just about physical intimacy. It was about healing, connection, and rediscovering the love we'd both thought we'd lost forever. Stepping into Dan's bedroom felt simultaneously comforting and nerve-wracking, as though I were crossing a threshold into both our shared past and an uncertain future. The room was bathed in the soft amber glow of a bedside lamp, casting warm, gentle shadows across familiar surroundings. The same neatly made bed we'd shared countless nights in, the same photographs of happier times on the wall, the same faint scent of Dan's cologne lingering softly in the air. Yet, despite the familiarity, something about tonight felt distinctly different, new, tentative, and profoundly intimate. Dan moved carefully behind me, gently placing his hands on my shoulders, his fingertips softly tracing patterns along the tense muscles of my upper back. His touch was tender, unhurried, communicating silent reassurance and desire all at once, leaving warmth in its wake that slowly melted the tension I'd been holding for months. I exhaled softly, leaning instinctively into his touch, silently urging him to continue exploring the connection we'd rediscovered. Slowly, Dan guided me to sit on the edge of the bed, taking a seat beside me, close enough that our legs touched lightly, sparking that familiar electricity once again. He lifted his hand to gently brush my cheek, eyes filled with quiet affection and warmth. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked softly, voice filled with genuine concern, showing how deeply he cared for my comfort and well-being. I smiled softly, leaning slightly into his palm, allowing myself the vulnerability I'd once feared. "More than okay," I replied quietly, heart fluttering in my chest at the sincerity in his gaze. "This feels right, Dan. It always did." His lips curved into a warm smile, eyes sparkling gently as he leaned forward, pressing another soft kiss to my lips. A kiss that was slow, deliberate, deeply comforting, yet filled with quiet passion. Gradually, the intensity increased, our breathing deepening in harmony, hands beginning to roam familiar territories, tracing along each other's shoulders, backs, chests, and hips with gentle reverence. As we eased backward onto the bed, our kisses grew more intense, hands rediscovering familiar curves and shapes, fingers softly gripping and releasing, savoring the thrill of reconnecting after months apart. It wasn't just physical. The emotional depth of our reunion made every kiss sweeter, every touch filled with profound meaning, a reassurance that this wasn't simply nostalgia, but a genuine desire to heal and rebuild something meaningful. Dan's lips slowly explored my neck, jawline, and shoulders, his breath warm against my skin, causing delightful shivers to ripple gently through me. My hands carefully slipped beneath his shirt, reacquainting myself with the warmth and softness of his skin beneath my fingertips, relishing the way his muscles reacted beneath my touch. Each quiet gasp, each sigh, each whispered word of affection deepened the powerful connection we shared, reminding us both of how perfectly we fit together. Clothes came off slowly, carefully, almost reverently, each piece removed serving as a symbolic shedding of the past hurts and misunderstandings that had separated us. Dan paused occasionally, eyes searching mine for reassurance and consent, which I gave eagerly, guiding him gently, letting him know that I wanted nothing more than to be close to him again. Lying together, skin against skin, we took our time, savoring every caress, every kiss, every whispered word. Though our passion deepened, we moved deliberately, choosing tenderness and care over urgency, knowing tonight was about much more than physical desire. It was about emotional intimacy, forgiveness, trust, and love. Foreplay was a gentle dance of rediscovery, each careful touch sparking powerful memories and creating new ones simultaneously. Later, after our bodies had reconnected deeply and intimately, we lay tangled together beneath soft sheets, breathing gradually slowing, heartbeats synchronizing in a comforting rhythm. Dan's arms were wrapped protectively around me, holding me close to his chest, fingertips tracing soothing circles across my back as our emotions settled into peaceful silence. In that quiet moment, Dan pressed a gentle kiss onto my forehead, whispering softly, voice thick with genuine affection. "I didn't realize how much I needed you until tonight. I've missed this, Max. Missed you." I nestled closer, feeling completely safe and cherished in his embrace, my voice barely a whisper yet filled with sincerity. "I've missed you too, Dan. More than I ever admitted to myself." In the peaceful silence that followed, as moonlight softly illuminated the room, we both realized something profound. The love we had shared never truly died. It had simply waited quietly beneath the surface, patient and resilient, ready to bloom again if given the chance. Sunlight crept gently through the bedroom curtains, painting the room in soft, golden hues that brought a comforting warmth to the morning. I awoke slowly, nestled securely in Dan's embrace, my head resting comfortably against his chest, lulled by the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. The peacefulness of the moment held me still, making me hesitant to move, afraid that stirring might break the delicate magic we'd recaptured during the night. As if sensing my wakefulness, Dan shifted slightly, tightening his hold around me, softly brushing his lips against my temple. The simple gesture sent warmth rushing through my body, reminding me of the tenderness and intimacy we'd rediscovered only hours before. His hand moved gently along my back, fingertips tracing patterns that spoke volumes. Comfort, affection, and an unspoken promise of care. "Good morning," Dan murmured softly, voice still thick with sleep, eyes opening slowly to meet mine. His gaze was warm, filled with tenderness and vulnerability, offering reassurance without needing words. "Morning?" I whispered back, smiling softly up at him, fingers gently exploring his chest, savoring the closeness I'd missed deeply. "Did you sleep well?" Dan nodded slowly, a lazy smile curving his lips, eyes brightening slightly. "Better than I have in months," he confessed, his honesty simple yet deeply moving. His hand cupped my cheek softly, thumb brushing lightly across my skin, eliciting a quiet sigh from my lips. We lay quietly for several more moments, savoring the peace and safety of being wrapped in each other's arms. unwilling to disrupt the newfound harmony we'd created. Yet beneath the serenity, we both knew important questions remained unanswered. Questions that hovered silently, waiting to be addressed. Eventually, Dan shifted slightly, lifting himself up onto one elbow, gazing at me seriously, eyes reflecting a deep vulnerability. "Max, what do we do now?" he asked quietly, words hanging delicately between us. "I don't want to pretend last night didn't happen, but I'm scared of hurting you again." I met his gaze steadily, recognizing the same fears mirrored in myself. Taking a slow breath, I gently touched his chest, tracing soft circles as I spoke. "I think last night showed us something important, that what we have hasn't died. Still there, strong as ever. But you're right, we can't go back to the way things were before." Dan nodded thoughtfully, his fingers still caressing my hair in slow, comforting movements. "I know. We've tried pretending everything was fine before, and that didn't work. But being without you feels wrong too." Hearing his honest confession stirred my heart deeply, giving me courage to voice my own truth. "Maybe this is our chance to start fresh," I suggested softly, cautiously hopeful. "We could build something new, not forgetting our past, but learning from it, respecting our differences instead of fighting them." Dan's eyes softened further, a gentle smile spreading slowly across his face as my words resonated deeply within him. "I'd like that," he whispered sincerely. "More than anything." With that quiet acknowledgement, tension we'd been carrying seemed to melt away, replaced by relief, understanding, and genuine hope. Dan leaned forward, lips brushing softly against mine. A kiss filled with tenderness, gratitude, and mutual promise. As our kiss deepened, his hands gently explored my body, moving slowly with a familiar tenderness, comforting yet full of gentle longing. A physical affirmation of the emotional intimacy we'd reclaimed. Afterward, we lay tangled together in bed, savoring the quiet closeness, the comfort of skin against skin, and the reassuring sound of each other's breathing. No more pretense, no hiding. Just two people who'd found their way back to each other, ready to embrace whatever future awaited them. As the morning drifted by, we whispered dreams and plans, carefully rebuilding the trust and connection we'd both desperately missed. Our hands remained gently intertwined, each careful touch symbolizing the quiet renewal of our bond, stronger now because of what we'd overcome together. Finally, Dan spoke again, voice soft yet filled with newfound clarity. "I can't promise this will be easy, Max, but I promise I'll do everything I can to make us right again." Smiling warmly, feeling peace settle deeply into my soul, I squeezed his hand gently. "That's all I need. Just knowing we're both willing to try again." Wrapped securely in Dan's arms, feeling the comforting rhythm of his heartbeat against mine, I realized we had indeed come full circle. Last night's intimacy had healed old wounds, allowing us to see clearly that, despite everything we'd been through, our story wasn't over yet. In the weeks that followed our reunion, Dan and I navigated a delicate yet beautiful dance of rediscovery, cautiously relearning the rhythms of each other's hearts. We moved slowly, carefully, each moment becoming a stepping stone toward rebuilding trust and intimacy, cherishing the closeness we had nearly lost forever. Yet beneath the sweetness lingered the gentle shadow of caution, reminding us to approach each day patiently and thoughtfully, embracing vulnerability without fear. One cool evening, as leaves swirled gently along the street outside, Dan invited me over once more, suggesting we spend a quiet night in together, cooking dinner as we had so often done during happier times. Entering his apartment, I felt a comforting warmth surround me, the room filled with the inviting scent of freshly cooked pasta and the soft flickering of candles illuminating the cozy space. "You're getting sentimental," I teased softly, smiling warmly as Dan embraced me, pressing a gentle kiss against my cheek. "It's nice." He chuckled lightly, eyes tender as he gazed affectionately into mine. "Maybe I am," he admitted quietly, guiding me toward the table, hand resting gently at the small of my back. "But I want tonight to feel special, to remind us why we fell in love in the first place." Dinner passed in comfortable conversation, filled with laughter, shared stories, and meaningful glances. Our fingers brushed often, lingering touches signaling reassurance, slowly eroding the remaining distance between us. Afterward, we curled up together on the sofa, the warmth of our bodies blending seamlessly, providing a comfort I'd missed more deeply than I realized. As we sat there in peaceful silence, Dan took my hand, threading our fingers together gently. "I think we're finally doing it right this time," he murmured thoughtfully, voice filled with quiet confidence. "We've learned from the past, and I truly believe we can make it work again." I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder, listening quietly to the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear. "I think so too. Maybe we had to break apart first, to truly understand how much we need each other." Dan nodded softly, his fingers tracing tender patterns over the back of my hand. "But I'm still scared," he confessed, voice trembling slightly with vulnerability. "I can't lose you again, Max." I gently cupped his face, guiding his gaze back to mine, offering him reassurance through my eyes. "We're both afraid, Dan, but I think we're stronger now because we've faced that fear. All we can do is keep choosing each other, every day." Slowly, Dan leaned closer, pressing his lips tenderly against mine. A kiss filled with promise, sincerity, and love. A kiss that silently pledged commitment to try again. Our hearts spoke clearly through that tender exchange, quieting lingering doubts and fears. That night, lying together in the soft glow of moonlight filtering gently through the bedroom window, we felt something shift permanently within us. A renewed sense of hope and possibility. Dan's fingers gently stroked my shoulder, soothing yet possessive. A silent affirmation that we belonged together despite everything we'd endured. "What now?" I whispered into the quiet darkness, voicing the question we'd both carried since reconnecting. Dan paused thoughtfully, carefully choosing his words. "Now we take it slow, day by day," he said softly, holding me close. "We accept we're not perfect, but we're stronger together than apart." I smiled, feeling deeply comforted by his words. "I like that plan." As we drifted toward sleep, wrapped securely in each other's arms, a powerful truth settled peacefully within my heart. Our love was still alive, stronger now because we'd fought for it, survived its loss, and chosen consciously to embrace it again. We didn't yet know exactly where the future would lead us, but one thing was unmistakably clear. This was not the end.